Ever spent what feels like forever wrestling with paperwork, just to try and land a government contract?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if, you could just tell a computer to take care of it.
Yeah.
It might be, well, kind of closer than you think.
Yeah, it's not even science fiction anymore. This is like really happening. The U.S. Army is using AI to help write up those, crazy complicated contracts like acquisition documents and all.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about some research project somewhere. This is, live.
Oh yeah, this is live on their systems right now. Yeah.
Wow.
It's called Ask Sage,
Okay.
and it's on their secure cloud system. It's Carmi.
So it's not just spitting out, some kind of generic contract. We're talking about RFPs, those super detailed documents, right?
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. It's not just some simple stuff. It's those RFPs, those requests for proposals.
Okay, so how does that even work?
Right.
I'm picturing some AI going rogue, rewriting the rule book on military procurement. You can't just set an algorithm loose on this stuff.
And that's the thing. That's what's kind of cool about it. It's not just one AI. It's like a whole bunch of AIs all double checking each other's work.
Wait, multiple AIs.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. How does that work? They're arguing over contract clauses in binary or something.
Well, think about it this way. Remember we were talking about large language models, the LLMs.
Yeah.
So Ask Sage uses a bunch of different ones, and they're trained on a massive data set of contracts and regulations
Right.
and legal precedent.
So it's not just one AI trying to do it all. It's
Right.
each one with their own kind of specialty.
Exactly.
Like a team of specialized lawyers.
Exactly. And because they've got, different strengths and weaknesses, they can catch errors or inconsistencies that a single AI might miss, right? They're all cross-referencing each other.
Okay.
It's actually really cool. The Breaking Defense article goes into how Ask Sage uses these multiple models to kind of have a built-in peer review.
That's pretty wild. So it's like having a whole team of legal experts going over every single detail,
Yeah.
making sure that nothing gets past.
And it's not even just about catching typos and stuff. It's these LLMs are actually trained to understand the nuances of government contracting. So things like cybersecurity protocols or maybe flagging potential conflicts of interest.
Oh, interesting.
That's what people talk about with the those guardrails for AI, making sure it's operating ethically and legally.
So it's like a built-in compliance officer.
Exactly.
Making sure that nobody's crossing any lines. Because let's be real, those regulations, it's easy to mess up.
Oh yeah. And especially for smaller companies, right? That maybe don't have a whole legal team,
Sure.
just at their beck and call. This could be a game changer
Oh, totally.
for them to be able to submit a bid and be confident that, some AI has at least looked it over.
And it kind of levels the playing field in a way.
Exactly.
'Cause it's giving everyone access to that same level of expertise, even if they don't, have the budget or the resources for it. This isn't just about making things faster or even more efficient. This could actually change who has access to these opportunities, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. It can really change who gets to be at the table, who gets to be a part of these big government projects.
It's like AI is opening these doors that were closed before
Yeah.
and allowing for more, competition and innovation.
And if you kind of connect that with, everything else that's going on with AI, the potential for this to be really disruptive is huge. I mean, we're already seeing, AI tools that can analyze market trends, optimize, supply chains, even predict future demand. Right?
It's like AI is giving us this glimpse into the future, and it's up to us to decide how we want to shape it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But let's bring it back to Ask Sage in the Army for a second.
Yeah.
What are they hoping to get out of this? What are the concrete benefits?
Well, I mean, besides the obvious ones, right? It'll be faster, it'll be more accurate. It also has the potential to save them a ton of money. Think about how much time and money the government spends just reviewing and processing contracts.
Well, it's got to be a lot. So it's a win-win. Faster contracts, fewer errors, and maybe we save some taxpayer money along the way.
Yeah, potentially, but like any new technology, especially something this transformative, we got to think about the challenges too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
One of the big ones is what happens to the people who do this work now, right?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Right. If AI can do this faster and cheaper and maybe even better than humans, are we making contract lawyers and procurement officers obsolete?
Back again with the deep dive. We're still trying to figure out what happens when the Army brings AI into contract writing and what it means, well, for everything, really.
Yeah, and I think the big question, right, the one everyone's wondering is, what happens to all the people who do this for a living now?
Right, right.
Like, if AI is going to be faster, cheaper, maybe even better at this stuff, what happens to contract lawyers, procurement officers, that whole world?
It's like the classic automation problem, right? And it's something that Alan Wesley, he's a cybersecurity expert, he was actually at one of the Ask Sage demos.
Oh, interesting.
And he kind of addresses this head on. He sees this as like an opportunity more than a threat.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
In his LinkedIn article, Wesley, he argues that instead of replacing jobs, AI is actually going to create new ones, especially for those who can adapt, who can kind of embrace these new tools.
Right, all right.
Goes as far as to say, and I'm quoting here, for defense contractors, embracing AI isn't just a way to keep up with the competition. It's like a strategic necessity.
Yeah.
If you want to thrive, this is it.
And he's not even just talking about, the tech companies that are building this AI. He's talking about everyone involved, right? The engineers, the lawyers, the procurement people, everybody.
So it's not about AI taking over, it's AI boosting what humans can do.
Exactly, yeah. Working smarter, not harder, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
So imagine, right, instead of spending, all day, every day, hunched over regulations and contract language, a procurement officer, they can use AI to do, the routine stuff.
Makes sense.
And then they can focus on, the strategy, the negotiating, the relationship building.
It's like having a superpowered assistant that does all the boring work so you can think bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And this whole thing about moving towards higher level skills, that's not just a guess. We're seeing companies like Lockheed Martin, they're already doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said that they got their RFP response times down 30% after they started using AI.
30%, that's huge. But what's that mean, for their bottom line?
Well, I mean, think about it. For a company that big, even a few percentage points of improvement is millions of dollars, right? But it's not even just about saving money. It means that they can respond to those RFPs that much faster.
Right.
It gives them a real advantage.
So it's not about doing the same work faster. It's changing how we even think about work, right? And that takes us back to Wesley's point. If companies want to stay ahead of the game, they got to figure out how to use AI in every part of their business.
Yeah, this is across the board, not just defense, right? Deloitte, McKinsey, Accenture, they're all saying AI is going to be huge for procurement. Deloitte, I think they're estimating AI could automate up to 40% of those tasks.
Wow, 40%. But then doesn't that make you wonder, what skills are even going to matter anymore?
Totally, yeah. As AI starts doing more of the routine things, skills like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, even emotional intelligence, that's going to be what sets people apart.
It's almost like we're headed toward this world where what makes us human, our creativity, empathy, building relationships, that's what's going to matter most. Not just compared to machines, but to each other.
That's really interesting. It's not us versus them, humans against machines. It's about figuring out how to use both, how to work together.
Yeah.
And that requires a real shift in thinking, right? Being open to these new tools, new ways of doing things.
It's we got to get comfortable with change.
Yeah.
Because the pace of it's not slowing down.
Exactly.
And the only constant is innovation, right?
Yeah.
But we have to remember that AI, it's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in good ways and bad ways.
For sure, yeah.
And one of the big risks here, especially with government contracts, is bias. If these AIs, if they're learning from data that already has bias built in, aren't we just, making that bias worse?
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge concern. And the people building these AI systems, they know it. One way to deal with that is making sure that the AI is trained on a really diverse set of data.
Okay, so it's not just about having a lot of data, it's about having the right data.
Yeah, and it's not a one-time thing either. It's got to be constantly checked and updated. As the AI learns, we got to make sure it's learning the right things.
So we've talked about AI maybe totally changing how government contracts work, making them more efficient, more open to everybody. But with something this powerful, we got to make sure it's being used ethically, right?
Absolutely. And I think a big part of that, like a really key challenge, is transparency. If AI is making decisions, big decisions with real impact, we need to be able to understand how it's getting there.
Yeah, it's like that whole black box problem.
Yeah.
We know the AI is spitting out these contract drafts and recommendations, but like, what's the process?
Exactly. And that can be a big barrier to people accepting it, especially in something like government contracts, right?
Right.
Where trust and accountability, those are non-negotiable.
Totally. Like, if something goes wrong, there's a dispute or somebody challenges the contract, you got to be able to, like, retrace the steps, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't just blame it on the computer and say, well, the AI did it.
Right. And that's why you're hearing more about this explainable AI now.
Yeah.
Systems that can actually, like, break down their reasoning in a way that humans get.
Okay, so it's not enough for the AI to just be right. It's got to be able to show its work.
That's it.
Like, why this course of action? What factors did it look at? How did it weigh them?
Yep, all of that. And that level of transparency, it's not just about trusting the system, it helps us spot those biases we talked about.
Makes sense.
If we can follow the AI's logic, we've got a much better shot at making sure it's being fair and equitable.
It's like they say, sunlight's the best disinfectant.
Exactly.
The more transparent these AI systems are, the more confidence we can have in them, right? But transparency is just one piece of it.
Yeah.
What about, like, oversight, regulations, all that?
Oh, for sure. And that's the tricky part. How do you regulate something that's constantly learning, changing,
Yeah.
We could barely keep up with it as humans.
It's like a moving target. By the time you write the rule book for AI and contracts, the tech itself has, like, already moved on.
Right. And that's why we need, like, a more flexible approach to this whole regulation thing, something that can evolve with AI.
So less about, like, a rigid set of rules and more about setting up, like, a framework for responsible innovation, right?
Yes, exactly. Something that, encourages progress, but also has, like, safety measures.
Right.
And that framework, it can't just be one group deciding. It's got to involve everyone. The people building the AI, the government using it, the citizens who are affected by it.
It's on all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all shaping this future with AI, and we got to make sure it's one where tech serves people, not the other way around.
Well said. And I think that brings us back to, like, the core of this whole conversation. The Army using AI for contracts, that's just one example of how this is going to change everything. It could make government way more efficient, way more effective, even more responsive to what people actually need.
Sure.
But it also brings up these huge questions, right?
Right.
About fairness, about transparency, about who's accountable when things go wrong.
It reminds us that tech is never neutral.
Never.
It reflects the values of whoever made it, whoever's using it. So as we build these, like, super advanced AI systems, we got to be thoughtful. We got to be ethical.
For sure.
And we got to be really clear about what could happen, the good and the bad.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of, open discussion, people working together, and honestly, a willingness to adapt because this tech isn't slowing down. But, I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I think we can use AI to make things better for everybody.
That's a good note to end on. And that's it for this deep dive into AI and government contracts. But like always, we want to hear what you think. What's got you excited about this stuff? What worries you? Let us know in the comments, and hey, maybe we'll even deep dive into some of those thoughts next time.
Yeah, keep those comments coming.
Until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, we decide what the future looks like. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Cyber Explorer reminds their audience that opinions and content creation by the author are his own and do not reflect those of his employer.